The ultimate truth is the realm personally realized by the Buddha. This is true. What is spoken, according to the views of sentient beings, is called conventional truth. In a sutra, both of these meanings are present. Generally, in the Theravada sutras, conventional truth is discussed more, and ultimate truth is discussed less. In the Mahayana sutras, ultimate truth is discussed more, conventional truth is discussed less. The further you go, the Buddha fully embodies the ultimate truth. So, at that time, the true teachings were spoken from the Buddha's perspective of ultimate truth. We, as practitioners, should not doubt this. The Buddha is the main speaker of the teachings and the Dharma. This time, it was Buddha in the Vulture Peak Mountain in Rajgir. This was the place where the teachings were given back then. The scriptures also record this, providing us with evidence of the profound teachings. There is a specific time and place, and there were listeners with 12,000 great bhikkhus present, making the event very solemn. There were so many listeners. You should know, usually when we read the scriptures, the audience of the Buddha's Dharma assemblies we see in the texts often mentions around 1,250 great bhikkhus. But on this occasion, the number of listeners increased tenfold compared to usual. 12,000 people. Plus, what is mentioned to us later, there were bhikkhunis, along with laymen and laywomen. The total came to 20,000 people. Such a magnificent and solemn assembly. It proves this assembly is beyond imagination. In the Lotus Sutra assembly, at the beginning of the Lotus Sutra, we also see 12,000 people. Now the hidden meaning. This is the secret meaning contained in the sutras, taught by ancient sages. This sutra is the same as the Lotus Sutra. On par with the Lotus Sutra. It indicates that it is an inconceivable, ultimate teaching. From these aspects, we need to understand the value of this sutra, its theories, methods, and principles. It doesn't fall short of ordinary sutras. It is incomparably magnificent. The following scripture explores virtue, praises his words to the assembly. Not ordinary people. All of this, the great sage, divine power is immense. This is to say that among the audience, they are not ordinary people. This sentence specifically praises the 12,000 great bhikkhus in attendance. These 12,000 are of great attainment, not minor attainment. The distinction between great sages and minor sages. Minor sages refer to the small vehicle, arhats, the abyss of the small city of the four-stage arhat. The sage of the great minister. My status is elevated. You see what we commonly say. The 3 wise and 10 sages. When can one become a sage? Fruition of Bodhisattva. The practice of the stone pillar is called the 3 wise stages. Only above this era is one called a sage. The 10 sages refer to the 10-stage bodhisattvas from the 1st stage to the 10th stage. This is what is called a sage. Among sages, there is the great sage. That is not an ordinary sage. Who does the great sage refer to? Among the bodhisattvas of the cloud stage and bodhisattvas of equal enlightenment, two positions can be called great sages. From this, we can know that the 12,000 attendees are not ordinary people. At the very least, they are bodhisattvas of the cloud stage or bodhisattvas of equal enlightenment, the compassionate ferry of the Taoists. They come to support Shakyamuni Buddha. As the saying goes, when one Buddha appears in the world, 1,000 Buddhas support him like a play, where Shakyamuni Buddha plays the lead role, and we come to play the supporting roles for you. Now, these supporting roles, these people are not ordinary. Some have qualifications, even older than the lead role. They are even the teachers of the lead role, playing minor roles and supporting roles for him. This is something we often see on stage. This world is a big stage, and Shakyamuni Buddha comes to perform this toast. That's why many ancient Buddhas and others come to teach the bodhisattvas. Thanks to Shakyamuni Buddha for performing this play so well, for singing it so beautifully. Everyone has a common purpose. And what is this purpose? To lead all sentient beings to enlightenment and awakening. All sentient beings to achieve Buddhahood in one lifetime. This is also the origin of all Buddhas. Earlier we mentioned in the crystal, to everyone. Now, the Buddha and these great sages see that in the Saha world there are beings whose opportunity to achieve Buddhahood has matured. People are incredibly happy. These great sages who come to play supporting roles are also extremely joyful and happy. Beings who abstain from lust and belong to equally submit in one lifetime. So these people are not ordinary people. You see, he didn't put this here. Bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, Chinshan temples, Chinshan women did not list these people here. Why? Those people are ordinary beings, not great deities. These 12,000 great bhikkhus, these people are great deities. So naturally, the world-honored one is now incredibly dignified. So as usual, beginning of the scripture must list a few representative figures. The ancients called them the leaders. List few names. The original text from the Han dynasty all the way to the Song dynasty. There were 12 translates. Listed clearly. The number varies. Some versions list more than 30 people, and some, fewer versions, have a dozen or 20 people. These people, why are their names listed here? Let me tell you, this is symbolic. When the world-honored one expounded the teachings, at which assembly they all participated. Why in this assembly, for this scripture, are these people listed, and for another scripture, another group of people is listed? You must know the significance of this. These people, from their names and virtues, are enough to represent this scripture. By looking at these people, you can understand the content of this scripture. Understand purpose of assembly, where the focus of the people lies. The listing of names has significance. Reciting the names is not done casually. Just like when we have meetings in society nowadays. Look at who is attending the meeting. You will know the nature of the meeting. What issues are they discussing? The listing of names in a Buddhist assembly. It also has this meaning. In summer, go to the old place to compile this scripture. He is among the leaders. Many people were omitted, only the most important ones are listed. These few people are enough to represent the entire group's intentions. They can express it all. This is the compiler, the skill, the brilliance of it. It saves us a lot of time and effort later on. We have obtained the essence of the Infinite Life Sutra. This. Among the 12 existing versions, 7 have been lost over the years. Now, in the major Tripitaka, there are still 5 cloud-translated versions. This compilation by Shia Io is 5 original translations. Reading this one is equivalent to reading all 5 versions. Word for word, complete and without any omissions. So back in the day, when Eve was alive, Master Huiming praised it. Master Sishu praised it. No worries. The elder layperson had nothing but praise. In the preface and the response, we can see. The compilation is excellent. The compilation is perfect. Compared to the past 3 versions, this compilation is far superior. So this is a brief introduction for everyone. Now let's look at its representatives. The title of honor, known as the Venerable Kyaching Shenshu. Venerable Sariputta, Venerable Mahamoggallana, Venerable Ananda, and 2 other leading disciples. Look, these are the great arahants. They only listed 5 people for us. It's really simple and clear. The first one is Venerable Kakana. In many scriptures, it's rare to see him as a leading representative. But Sariputta and Moggallana are often seen. We often hear about those we are familiar with, but Kakana is quite unfamiliar. We rarely hear his name. let's talk more about it. Why is he not mentioned, even though he wasn't left out? What does he represent among the Buddha's disciples? He represents the first to attain fruition, first achieve enlightenment. Shakyamuni Buddha. In those days, he attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. After becoming a Buddha, to the deer park, to guide these 5 people, these 5 bhikkhus. This was the first time he preached the Dharma. There were only 5 people in the audience. If you now come to learn to preach, having 5 people in the audience would be very satisfying. I'm no different from Shakyamuni Buddha. After setting it up, it was about having 5 listeners. Now, when I give lectures, there are more than 5 people, which is much more remarkable than Shakyamuni Buddha. There's no need to seek enlightenment or attain fruition like the first of the 5 bhikkhus, who became a Buddha. There are many stories about Kondinya, but we won't discuss those here. What we need to believe here is what it represents, which is this sutra. It's the sutra that first leads to enlightenment. This method is the path to the first fruition. It represents this meaning. And with the latter part of this sutra. Meeting room, small town. Where is this sutra in our context? It seems to be in 1994. Everyone turn to 1994. Yes, 1994. The first section of the circulation part encourages faith and dissemination. Look at the section analysis. The second part, Ding 2, the first disciple. Let's read the sutra text. With a mind free from inferiority and not boasting of achievements, cultivating good roots, joyfully respecting the superior, you should know this person is not of minor accomplishment and is named the first disciple in my teaching. All right, after reading this passage, you see how it corresponds back and forth. Kiao Chengru is the first to attain enlightenment and the first to achieve fruition. Placing it first is to illustrate. This sutra is meant for all sentient beings. Firstly, it is the method for equally attaining Buddhahood. If you were to ask which of all the sutras spoken by Shakyamuni Buddha over 49 years is the first, isn't it clearly stated that this is the first sutra? Among thousands of sutras and treatises, today we can select the first sutra. Without great good roots, great blessings, and great conditions, how could you encounter it? Today we encounter the first sutra among all sutras. Kiao Chengru represents winning. So why is it placed first? Below it is also first. From this point, until the completion of this sutra, every word and sentence is first, there is no second. In general sutras, we say that Shariputra represents wisdom. Mahayana has magic. With Kondinya placed at the front, the symbolic meaning of Shariputra is elevated. It elevates Shariputra here as the foremost in representing wisdom. Mahayana represents the foremost in supernatural powers. Supernatural powers, now called abilities. Tongyam means to be thoroughly proficient. There is nothing that is not understood. Completely, unobstructed, indeed. Marvelous and miraculous. Bright as the moon, a common knowledge. Beyond our imagination. He possesses such extraordinary abilities that are foremost. In all the sutras, these two venerable ones are present, which means that everything the Buddha spoke of in the sutras is wise. It emanates from true wisdom, and true, virtuous abilities. Kia, we must add a foremoster to it. Wisdom is foremost, and these supernatural powers, these abilities are foremost. It is absolutely not found in other sutras that can compare. Why is that? Because no other scripture can enable all sentient beings to equally become Buddhas. Only by reading this sutra, this Dharma door, can all sentient beings equally become Buddhas. You must remember this. As we are building confidence here, studying this section of the scripture is to establish us with an incomparably firm confidence. Believe in yourself. A sincere heart is a sign of blessing. Believe in yourself. It is the mind that brings good. The key in this section of the scripture is to promote this principle, and below it also helps us build confidence. Absolutely unwavering. Venerable Ananda. Now this hypothetical venerable represents the Zen school, the first patriarch of Zen. Venerable Ananda represents the teachings. Combining the Zen school with the teachings is the entirety of Buddhism. Nothing is left out. Everything outside of Zen is called the teachings. These two representatives. The meaning is to tell us that both the Zen school and the teachings ultimately return to the Pure Land. You see the Pure Land. So is it true that the Chinese value the Pure Land? They truly do. The most obvious example. Masters Mazu and Baizhong, these two great masters, established the monastic rules and advocated. We practice. Look at the daily recitations set by Beizhang's monastic rules in the Zen tradition. It's the Zen school's curriculum. In the evening, they recite Amitabha Buddha's name. During the evening session, they read and recite the Amitabha Sutra. Isn't this returning to the Pure Land? It doesn't undermine the Pure Land. It's a place to rest. Dozens of scriptures, many teaching. Different paths lead to the same destination, infinite life. They lead to this step. They lead to the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss. Understanding this principle, we choose the Pure Land School. Focusing on dedicated practice ensures we won't be swayed by other unique paths. It won't shake our resolve. This is the meaning here. Looking further into the Dharma assembly, there are many bodhisattvas. Among the bodhisattvas, 3 are listed for us. The lowly Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. There's also Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, Manjushri Bodhisattva, and Maitreya Bodhisattva. All the bodhisattvas from the newly joyful realm have come to this assembly. This meeting is good. What does Samantabhadra represent? Unity of respect and delusion. We know that. Within the 10 schools of Buddhism, there is the esoteric school. The esoteric school in modern times, the red boat, is very widespread. Who is the patriarch of the esoteric school Samantabhadra? The founder of the esoteric school is Bodhisattva Nagarjuna, 600 years after the passing of Shakyamuni Buddha. Bodhisattva Nagarjuna appeared in this world. He is a first stage Bodhisattva. After he opened the Iron Tower in the southern heavens, he saw the Vajra sand, also known as Bodhisattva Vajrapani. He passed on this secret teaching to him, and it was transmitted. Thereafter, Bodhisattva Vajrapani, also known as Vajrasattva, he is an incarnation of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. So in Vajrayana, Bodhisattva Samantabhadra is referred to as Vajrasattva. He represents here. Ultimately, Vajrayana also returns to the Pure Land. This meaning is within this sutra. The form is special. Clear. Why? Because the second chapter is meticulously written. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, the 10 great vows are recorded. How could Vajrayana not return to the Pure Land? Do you get meaning? Bodhisattva Manjushri represents the unity of Zen and Pure Land. Zen Buddhism, what Bodhidharma passed down, is not the meditation from the 6 perfections. It is the Prajnaparamita from the 6 perfections. You see, in the Platform Sutra of the 6th Patriarch, as soon as he starts, he tells everyone to always recite Maha Prajnaparamita. So the Zen Buddhism that all countries should consider is the practice of Prajnaparamita. Bodhisattva Manjushri represents this. This is the main deity within the Zen sect. Samantabhadra is main deity in Vajrayana. They all ultimately return to the Pure Land. When we practice Pure Land, our minds become settled. Seeing Zen and Vajrayana is great. I am the secret within the secret, the Zen within Zen. Won't you be swayed by it? Only then will your faith and aspiration be firm. The Bodhisattva clearly states here that you must understand this profound meaning. This place truly helps us build unparalleled faith and aspiration. Next is Bodhisattva Maitreya. Bodhisattva Maitreya represents here Odsha. In our era of Shakyamuni Buddha, this great era lasts 12,000 years. The Dharma of Shakyamuni Buddha, including the true Dharma, semblance Dharma, and the end of Dharma, this great era is 10,000 years long. After 12,000 years, what Dharma doors do other Buddhas propagate? Is it the same as Shakyamuni Buddha? Do they also propagate this Dharma? That's right. Bodhisattva Maitreya will become Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha is the 4th Buddha of the Bhadrakalpa. Maitreya is the 5th one. It is to come and board the ship. Also, to sink the ship with this Dharma. Why? Because this Dharma is the foremost Dharma. The 10 directions in 30. All Buddhas and Tathagatas. The foremost aspect of leading sentient beings to the path of Buddhahood is the Infinite Life Sutra. The Infinite Life Sutra. Is it the object of its grasp? are the object of its strict observance